Not having a good hair day today, Nick. Apologies in advance.
I'm having a great hair day, so this actually works
I
really
can
well
tell
for
you
me.
just got a fresh cut.
Ignore the flies buzzing around my head. That's unrelated.
Maybe have a shower.
I don't want to.
I don't want it. Apparently, flies like clean. Anyway, you heard that?
Is that right? They like to bespoil things.
It could be an old wives'
Those
tale.
sick fucks.
It's like when people couldn't afford to bath, someone just invented the myth that like actually flies like the clean anyway. So if the more flies you got, the cleaner you are.
Okay, so you think this is all a con, an elaborate con that we've been sold?
From the medieval ages.
Yeah, hygiene is bad for you.
Yeah, could be. It could be.
Well, we can run an A/B experiment. I'll keep doing sort of normal things like showering and deodorant and like a very expensive cologne. And you can just keep doing what you're doing, which is basically look disheveled and never shower.
I wouldn't include cologne in hygiene.
Of course it is.
Well, could be part of
It's an aura. It's an aura. It's a bubble around you that you're projecting into the world, And I'm not talking about skunking. We're not trying to really push it into someone's face, but when someone approaches in an intimate moment, like a loved one or a shopping queue, you want that person to feel like they're welcome, and that is what a cologne does.
I mean, yeah. What cologne are you using these days? Let's give them a shout out.
It's called Preen Oxy Action White, and it's really good. It's really good.
And who makes that? Preen.
It's Preen.
Preen for men.
Sometimes you see it listed as Vanish,
right?
But I think that's just like a grey market sort of thing. It depends where you are.
Yeah, in France it's Varnish.
I also apply varnish to myself. Yeah,
German. I said Varnish.
Varnish.
German. Yeah. Varnish by Johnny Depp.
He has varnished, hasn't he?
Remember those that it's probably still around. It was like Johnny Depp Sauvage, and it was crazy that every time you'd see it on bus stops and everything. And this is during the Amber Heard kind of debacle, and it just reads like Savage. It just reads Johnny Depp Savage, and I was like, if I was your PR team, I'd be like, right,
can we get that away?
Change the name, maybe put another U in there, maybe just to really distance ourselves.
Sewage. Oh, wait, no, that sounds a bit more sewagey. Maybe we don't want too many U's in there.
Brutal.
Johnny Depp, sewage.
Hey,
I have to say that.
Yeah, go on.
I have to say, I don't feel like I've ever been compelled by any celebrity beauty product. Do you know what I mean? Like whenever they, whoever the hot new thing is, they get them in their jocks for a, Armani campaign, or they spray, get them standing around with their arms, and then, spritz a little something. I've never found any of that compelling. I've never been like, oh, this is Chris Pratt's smell. Finally, now I know what to buy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be, I agree with you. I've never been drawn in by a celebrity cologne, but I think it might be to do with the celebrities, because what have we got? We got Beckham, we got Depp, we got probably Bieber is out there.
I mean, any sort of Hollywood it guy, goes through that phase,
give me a
right?
Clooney, you give me a Pitt.
Clooney has definitely had a smell.
Well, it might smell like espresso, though.
Maybe he's prohibited from any other campaigns because he needs to smell like coffee.
Yeah, but you want to. I agree. Yeah, I think a Clooney or a Pitt, but Brad Pitt famously has a BO, so everyone says that.
You know what annoys me about Clooney is I just don't buy he drinks Nespresso for a second. Like, it's such a weird mismatch. It doesn't work. There's absolutely no chance.
Way. You go to Clooney's house and you won't find one
he pops a pot
Nespresso
in the
pot. Yeah, imagine that. It
is just absurd, and that's why I find those ads so grating. It's like, you just can't possibly believe for a second that this guy would drink pod coffee.
No, he'd have his own barista in there.
Yeah.
Doing that, all that coffee that gets shut out by monkeys in the Amazon.
The civet ones. Yeah. Oh man, I just don't find any of that celebrity product stuff compelling. But I have to say, if you found a way to get your hands on a There Will Be Blood specialty cologne, right? Like, you'd be spritzing that every day of the week.
I'm listening. Daniel
It smells like leather and oil. Yeah.
Oh, that would be good. I would definitely.
Sandalwood. There'd be some sandalwood in there.
Yeah, it would smell like sandalwood and greed.
Yeah. and weirdly, like rotten milk, like sour milkshake.
Yeah, and whiskey, but old whiskey.
Okay.
That's been left out in the sun.
Should we approach PTA with this idea? I mean, I don't know if he's got this pitch before, and I feel like there's a market.
Yeah, my one criticism of the There'll Be Blood enterprise is that there wasn't enough merch.
Tie-in merch.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome to Deep for everybody. This is a podcast. We just talk about the things that matter. And we do so in a lighthearted tone, in a way that whiles away the minutes in our never-ending path through mortality.
Yeah, it just kills time.
Well, I was saying it in a more like poetic way. Sitting through the internet with me this week, my friend Michael. Hello.
Big Nick Energy. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you for greeting me by my name.
BNE.
Very rare
BNE.
as podcast list. BNE.
A lot of people.
How's life? How's things? How's good?
Well, apart from internet catastrophes, not bad. Had a quiet weekend. Saw Roixop DJing on Friday. Felt like it's kind of a rave. Yeah.
I don't picture you in a rave really enjoying yourself.
No one does. That's what security said as I walked in. They said, I don't picture you.
Are you meant to be here?
Yeah. It was kind of it was a weird thing because it was like an old. We don't go out clubbering or anything anymore, but Roixop, older crowd. They're in their 50s now.
Yeah.
They're playing like Norwegian electronic. I always liked them for some reason.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like a little bit. That's how old I am. I would describe clubs as but it was fun. It was like everyone was in their 40s and 50s and just like a bit tired by the end of it. But finished at 1.
To be clear, was it before they got on stage, or was that what Roixop was also doing?
Yeah, no, they had like 4 DJs playing before.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was heavier than usually prefer, but it was just a good time. They played some of their hits, and it was just nice. And then I spent the rest of the weekend thinking, well, I've been young for last night, and now I can just work on my veggie patch again.
Exactly. Welcome to your mid-30s.
Yeah. How about you?
Just one last question about Roixop. That seems like a smallish venue. Like, they're pretty well known.
No. It wasn't a smallish venue. It was like a warehouse kind of rave thing. But part of the draw was that it was at the Melbourne Showgrounds, which is really, it's walkable. It's like a 10-minute walk from our house. So that was part of the draw, and we're just like, we'll have some drinks here and walk on down and walk on back when we're tired. But they had a lot of stroby things, and for the first time ever, I had to put my hand over my eyes, and I couldn't deal with the strobe. It's too much.
Yeah.
Kept looking at the floor. No, not good. I mean, you would with your migraines. Do you have a... Yeah,
with my migraines, it's just like it generally causes me discomfort.
Yeah, I mean, it would be terrible. But I think I'm just getting, the older I get, I'm getting way more sensitive to sound and...
don't these guys know this is damaging their hearing?
Yeah.
This is really not good.
Yeah. Well,
and your Apple Watch is being like, you've been exposed to quite loud decibels for over 10 minutes now. Yeah. You should consider...
because of the older crowd, everyone's watches are going off at the same time.
Yeah.
What's going on with you, my dog?
I'm doing pretty well. We had a sort of a longish weekend vibe here because it was Waitangi Day on Thursday, and then Casey took Friday off, so he sort of had a 4-day weekend. But on the Thursday we did a hike, so we headed out about 45 minutes out of town, grabbed some lunch on the way, and then ended up in this sort of gorge area, and brought Goose along. And
gorge meaning beautiful, short for gorgeous.
It was 2 for 1, baby. It was gorge, and it was a gorge.
It was a gorgy gorge.
And I don't understand why that's your go-to move now.
I can't.
Why you repeat everything in
It's
Donald Trump
have a
voice.
problem. I'm doing it the worst possible moments, by the way.
Can we just take a second here and brainstorm like another character that you can sort of sub in? Because I don't want this.
Look, I don't want this either. I'm trying to detach myself from it, but it's hard. I'm an addict. Okay, if it's not Trump, it's going to be someone else. And
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's any good
Can you bring
options.
back like a Michael Brent?
Michael Brent?
David Brent. Michael Scott.
Maybe I can. Don't know. I think I've lost it a little bit. You know, it's been a few years.
Okay, that's okay. I don't mind if you have to workshop it across the course of this pod. Anytime you get that Trumpian urge, can we go Brent, please?
I think it has to be someone problematic on some level, though. I mean, Gervais, you got Trump. It's going to have to... Maybe it's Elon. I don't know. Maybe I can do a South African vague accent. I don't know.
So you're saying it's too hard?
That's what she
I
said.
was setting you up for it. That's what she... Yeah, there you go. Okay. We'll work on it. They had quoted a 2.25 hour return for this walk to a waterfall, and we did it in, I think, 55 minutes, which was mostly because Goose, very excited to go there, was just pulling me uphill for the entirety of the thing. It was incredibly steep, and she didn't really seem to care about the path, and so would just take more direct routes that were increasingly difficult.
I love
as
that
the person
for her.
holding the lead.
I love that.
But she was having a ball.
There's
so
a lesson
we did it.
in that for all of us, you know? Why do you
There
need to
is.
follow the path when there's a shorter...
Yeah.
Wait, just because it's a bit prickly, the terrain, you know?
Just because it's a bit more difficult doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
Good on you, Goose. Shout out to Goose.
Glutes got to work out. Everything's benefiting.
Yeah. Well, that sounds nice.
So it's a nice little getaway. And then today we just had some yum cha for lunch with Casey's family. So it was
Did they make that?
weekend.
I saw that photo. It looked really delicious. Got me hungry.
so good.
Did they make it at home?
No, we went out for lunch. Yeah, it was
Taiwanese
sort of a
yum cha.
belated. Well, I think it's just Chinese was the restaurant we're at, but yeah, perks of the Asian boyfriend life. You get to go to really good, authentic Chinese restaurants.
Yeah, beautiful. Bit of braised pork with the egg.
Yeah, some fried prawn like dumpling things. We had some fried tofu that was really good. Soup dumplings. Love a soup dumpling.
Oh, I love a soup, like a little wonton situation.
A little wonton. We had some squid. We had some duck. The good stuff.
Duck
Pork
off.
buns.
Yeah, beautiful.
Duck on. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Anyway, so that's my life.
I got a little thing for. I got a little small seggy idea for you. I got a jingle.
Okay.
Haven't written the jingle yet, but I'm going to do it this afternoon.
Okay.
It's on the back of this. On the back of something that happened. It's very very minor. Very minor.
Okay.
So this is my new segment idea, Nick. It's called "And That's Why There's No God." And basically, the premise of this segment is that it's just little things in your life that you're like, why does this exist? It might be like a small nuisance, but it's like it can't be like, why is there suffering? That's not. It's small little inconveniences which just go to show that there's no God, because why would there be this? So that's the premise of the.
Is this in the vicinity of most of your segments, i.e. just a slightly tangential version of Michael's Miffed? Just more things that you're annoyed at, but through a different lens?
No, this is completely different.
Okay,
completely
well,
different.
that's in that case. I look forward to hearing the jingle about your atheist propaganda.
Yeah, it's
Continue.
mostly going to be just me arguing about the existence of God with myself. All right, so I was so on
Sorry,
Monday.
can you just give me a space there for the jingle?
That's why there's no God.
Go ahead.
No, you're going to need longer than that. It's a 3-minute jingle.
It's a 3-minute. You're committing to it. I remember the pushback I got for my 40-second Bitly Ball intro.
Yeah.
So a 3 minets is that's commitment that I admire.
Self-indulgent. Yeah, some people say it's self-indulgent, but necessary. All right, so first one. So start of this week, I went to Sydney on Monday, right? So I've got an afternoon flight to Sydney. I'm there for 2 days for work. And it's really nice because it kind of feels like, all right, I got Monday to work through, but it's breaking up the week because it's like vaguely exciting, even though I'm there for work, getting put up in a hotel.
novel.
It's nice. And I'm like, this is something different. Great. right? So it comes around to like, lunchtime. My flight's at like 2. Get a banh mi from down the road just before my flight. And I'm eating this banh mi and I bite the inside of my lip here. Right?
Oh.
Right? And I bite it really hard, and it's a really excruciating amount of pain. It really, really fucking hurts. Keep eating this now, but do it again. I do it again, but this time it's
this same place,
and this time it's double. It's like increasing in pain.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this fucking sucks. And so I get in the Uber to the airport, and I chew in some gum pre-flight, get the jaws working. You know how it is. And I'm in the back of this Uber and almost there, chewing gum, clamp on it again so hard that I was struggling. I was struggling to not make it known to the driver that I had just done this because I wanted to go, ah!
Scream. Yeah.
And my eyes are watering up. It was so extremely painful, right? And then for the rest of this trip, for 2 days, I continued to bite on this thing, this fucking bite, every single time I ate, to the point where I was genuinely scared to eat. And so I would be out, I was eating by myself out, and I was holding my lip out like that to eat because I was so scared. And that's why there's no God. Because... why would that exist? Why would a thing exist where it's something so small that you can, as soon as you bite onto your lip, that it happens? It's easier to do it and it's more painful to do it. It's insane.
It's a slippery slope because it gets bigger because you've created a wound and then it grows larger in size, which makes it more likely to be bit again.
Right, and it's just an extreme amount of pain for what it is. But that's why there's no God.
And then you're eating your chili squid, you're eating your lemon juice shots, and every time stings like a motherfucker. It's not just a chewing based injury at that point. It's then an open wound which can be triggered by anything you put in the mouth.
That's right. It's a trip ruiner. Honestly, it can really fuck with your day.
As someone who has had mouth ulcers for all my life, I totally get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Well, is it called an ulcer? Because I was...
Well, I don't know. I think technically a mouth ulcer arises from a virus at some point.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It comes out in stress or it comes out in that kind of thing.
Right.
But I think you can be predisposed to it. And I definitely think that if you cut yourself, the end result of what that wound looks like in the mouth is basically the same thing. I'm pretty sure it's just an open wound.
Yeah.
But when I got COVID, I had a really sore throat after the fact, and they were saying, sore throat, that's part of the thing. It's just one of the symptoms of the virus. Just drink some honey or some lozenges and things. But even the lozenges would just cause like this furious burning that I was just like, this is not going away. And it was a full week, and I couldn't eat and I couldn't swallow like anything. Just drinking water, it sucked.
It's devastating.
And eventually stuck the phone camera in my throat and had a close up because it was COVID. We were in lockdown. I couldn't go to a GP, and there was like 9 ulcers on the back of my throat that had like clustered into this huge open wound.
Ew.
And it took like 2 weeks to heal. It wasn't just like sore throat. It is ulcer. There's just like horrifying. Yeah. So I'm very sympathetic.
Thank you so much. But phone in if you've got some of your own.
I've got I don't know if this is completely in the vicinity, but I have a story that is similarly mouth-related and discomfort. So I might jump in here. I got my...
veneers.
I'm grinning at the camera.
Your veneers off.
I got my
braces.
Invis off and had the retainer wire and everything put in underneath, but a bit of a process getting them removed. So the way that the Invisalign works is they super glue little notches onto the front of each tooth, which act as like a grip.
Yeah.
And then they form mouth guards around it so that they click onto the notches and then they don't move. And that's the sort of structural thing there that forces the things into place. But they super glue it onto the tooth itself. Well, end of the process, guess what, Michael? They've got to come off because you don't want notchy teeth for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And the way they do that is with a belt sander. They just get in there and they just...
No.
And I'm not joking, I had like 16 of these things in my mouth, across top and bottom.
I can't even take you doing that sound. I'm getting so triggered by that.
Yeah. And he started on the bottom, the jaw. You hear the noise, there's a bit of pressure or whatever, but it's okay, it's manageable. The top though, the top is in the skull. It's not like a separate bone or connected with sinew or whatever. It is the brain skull, and the vibration goes into your head.
Yeah.
Like you feel it like it's like brain surgery. And that experience, there is no God.
It's actually, and that's why there's no God. We're going to be consistent.
And that's why there's no God. Well, I haven't heard the jingle yet, so forgive me.
It's in the jingle. But no, I've thought that all the time because that's the worst thing about the dentist. Like I can take a needle in the mouth, I can take pain, but the drilling, because I thought that all the time, it's the shaking, the extreme reverberation. I'm like, you're doing this to my head. It's not my tooth. You're doing it to my skull. Yeah. And it's just shaking your whole thing. And I'm just like sitting there like just trying to freeze up as much as I can.
Yeah. Not fun. But I mean... No. Look at the results.
I mean, pearly whites.
Pearly whites.
You look great.
Thank you.
Now,
Michael, you also said as well that you had composed a 40-second outro for this segment as well. Is that correct?
No.
Yes, you said you're going to do like a separate second outro jingle just to sort of like cap off the end of this segment. So I'm really looking forward to hearing that. Just a bit different, something to freshen up the format. So an intro and outro jingle. Thank you very much.
Can it just be the same thing at the end?
No, I think it's going to be a completely different song.
All right. Okay, let me think about that later.
No, I think you could make it thematically connected, but maybe it's, maybe this is the sort of soothing, evening come down version of the jingle, with a little bit of a catharsis and resolution, and it wasn't that nice, versus the upbeat kind of like enthusiastic driving opener, like a tonal shift, but still with some, resonance and connection to what we heard the first time, so they feel of a part,
Well, okay, that's quite a brief. All right, sure.
I'm just repeating to you what you said to me off mic. So great to have it confirmed on the pod. And we'll just play that now.
To check that. Okay.
That's why there's no God.
All right, bit of a hard pivot here.
Lovely.
I don't know if you saw this. The strings. I mean,
the strings actually. I was shocked at how realistic they sounded, because often I find that the really cheap strings, they don't sound that great. So you've clearly spent some money there on an authentic orchestral version of strings, and I respect that.
Yeah, we recorded in Abbey Road Studios, actually. So, it sounds great. Oh. Now, I don't know about... look, this could be nothing, but it could be something, no cause for alarm just yet, but there may or may not be an asteroid hitting Earth in the year 2032, and NASA has been increasing the likelihood that it would hit the Earth, which is it's very unnerving, right? So I'll just read this article here, okay? So,
Michael, if you don't mind, this sounds a lot to me like science news.
Oh my God, I'm doing a science news.
Play the jingle.
Let me get my lab coat.
It's that time. Time for science news.
So, city killer asteroid has a 1 in 43 chance of smashing into Earth in 2032, NASA says. NASA scientists have spotted a hunk of space rock that could smack into Earth in 2032, and while it's unlikely to wipe out humanity, it could take out a city. The asteroid, dubbed 2024 YR4, was detected by NASA's Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System on December 27th last year. According to the latest NASA estimates, it has about a 1 in 43 chance of hitting our planet in 2032. But there's some good news for Earth. The YR4, the asteroid, is only about 55 meters across, which means it is too small to end human civilization. Phew! If it collided with Earth, but it could wipe out a major city. Scientists estimate that it would release about 8 megatons of energy upon impact, more than 500 times that of the atomic bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. Yay!
Wow.
Although the asteroid is currently moving away from us, Earth will have several close shaves with the space rock in the next half century. Its next sideswipe will occur in late 2028, followed by six more close approaches between 2032 and 2074. Of these, the one that with the highest chance of impact will be on December 22nd, 2032, according to NASA. As the asteroid gets closer, scientists will have a much better sense of its trajectory and likelihood of hitting Earth, which I find very comforting. That they're like, you know what, when it's close, when we can all see it,
that's when we'll know.
Yeah, guys, I think it's going to be here soon. All of these factors place YR4 at level 3 on the Torino Impact Hazard Scale, the system scientists use to determine an asteroid's threat level. Threats like these are the reason NASA and other space agencies are interested in developing techniques to redirect asteroids, blah, blah, blah. The chances of a catastrophic asteroid impact are usually very low, so it's crucial to continue monitoring objects of interest, astronomers say. Even though YR4 probably won't trigger a mass extinction like the dino-killing space rock that slammed into what is now Mexico 66 million years ago, astronomers will keep a close eye on the asteroid as it circles back towards our planet. So the scary thing about this, I thought, was that earlier in the week when I first saw this come up, it was that NASA had upgraded this asteroid, the threat of it, to a 1.6 chance that it will hit Earth, and then a week later it was 2.3, and you kind of had this idea that we know where everything's going, where all this space rock is flying. We have a good understanding. But if NASA are upgrading their threat calculation, isn't that kind of say that they don't really know?
Well, I mean, yes, but knowing that you don't know something is one of the paths towards finding out, right? What we're dealing with is probabilities, and probabilities are very hard for humans to wrap their head around, right? Famously, very difficult to get people to understand. That's why people play the lottery and why people, keep driving cars, because, the idea of, I've got a 1 in 100 chance of winning, or a 1 in a, million chance of an accident or whatever. It doesn't mean anything to people. So yeah. It's not how our brains work. And when you have something like NASA come in and say, 1 in 32, I think the rational thing is, well, those are pretty good odds it doesn't hit us, but it's scary because it shouldn't be so. It's scary to think even a 2% chance happens, because that's like, a couple of cartons of eggs, you get one bad egg. Like that's a very understandable number.
Yeah, it's not 0. It's not 0.1. It's like 2.3 is like if someone told you have a 2.3 chance of dying from cancer, you'd be like, oh man, like I'm going to change some things about my life if I can do it. Like it's
I mean, to be honest, I think all of us have a higher than that chance of dying of cancer.
Probably. Anyway, I don't know. NASA, get it together, please.
I like the idea that this is NASA in this context is the fucking owners of Jurassic Park, who are out there experimenting with asteroids, and then one got away from them, and they're like, being told off for not having got it under control. Like, oh, come on, guys, stop playing around with these big rocks. You're making this dangerous.
Yeah.
NASA is the one actively trying to stop this from happening.
Yeah. But imagine if they would have to, I guess they'd have to redirect it somehow. But they've done experiments. Didn't they redirect to another asteroid recently? They kind of get a lander on it, and then they blow it up, and it kind of changes its course.
That might have been a movie. Did that actually happen? Okay. I think they have been trying to land on an asteroid, but I don't know if they've successfully done it yet.
Yeah. Well, there was that one that came from Aliens a few years ago. You remember that one?
Yeah. Sure.
The big, the cylindrical one?
Yeah.
Was clearly...
Yeah.
You nailed that. It is... The aliens
it's pretty
did
close.
name it, so it's pretty hard to pronounce.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, they don't even have human mouths. Yeah.
I like the idea that aliens are just like throwing shit at us, from their planet, because they know they can get exactly right there. Wait.
Just like fucking toddler, like primary school kids.
Yeah, with
throwing rocks at like an ant's nest.
Yeah. Like, did you ever do the straws? Did you do the straws with the you roll up the paper and you ding it at people in their neck?
I was too much of a goody two shoes to actually do it, but I would definitely.
Oh, you were the one. You were the one getting hit.
Yeah. Well, it seemed to be. Yeah, it seemed to be most people they were trying to aim it at the ceiling. They weren't aiming it at other people. But maybe that's just my memory of it.
I was aiming at other people, the teachers.
People trying to get what's stuck at the roof.
Oh yeah, I would do that too, but with boogers.
Okay.
Speaking of straws, how about this great initiative from the Trump administration to bring back plastic straws? I love it. You can't make this stuff up. I honestly thought it was a joke. And then Channel 9 or Channel 10 posted a thing, and I was like, this guy is insane.
I mean,
also just the Gaza thing. It's just like,
I was going to say, that's
crazy,
the least
dude.
Offensive of what has been an absolutely batshit crazy couple of weeks.
Well,
I don't
the turtles.
I don't even have the energy to go through all the shit that's been going on. But fuck all of them. I don't know. It's so bad. It's going to be so bad, and it's so early in this term. I don't know how people who actually live over there are going to be able to endure it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go into it, but one thing I was ruminating on this week is that I think there was a part of a lot of people that thought, okay, this is theoretically Trump's last term. He's really going after this campaign because he lost in 2020 and he needs to get the victory back, right? And he won fair and square, and he's done it. He's won. He's done the thing. He's now a winner again, and it's part of us thought that, maybe he's just going to take his foot off the brakes. All right, he's won now. He's going to not really do anything. But it never really occurred to me that, he would really go after because now he's going for his legacy, I guess. Now, in the same way that maybe a Putin he's fighting to be remembered for something, which is just something I didn't maybe ignorantly think that Trump needed as far as his ego goes. But here we are.
I don't even think you can necessarily characterize it as being about legacy. I think he just has no constraints on pursuing a reshaping of the country in a conservative image. I don't even think it's about him, yes, he likes the adulation, but they're just actively this Christian nationalist reinvention of what the nation is, undoing the safeguards of democracy, installing an oligarch basically to just tear the government apart, and actively penalizing and punishing people of different ethnicities, backgrounds and ideologies that don't agree with them. So
you don't even think it's necessarily coming from Trump?
Oh, none of this is coming from Trump. This is all Project 2025 shit. This is all the people who see him as a useful idiot who will sign whatever the fuck they put in front of him. But it's all the stuff that the right wing and billionaire class and culture warrior people want. Like all of this shit is vindictive, and it's about shaping America permanently in an image that they want.
Yeah, right.
And Trump is just the guy that can do it for him because he's so easily pleased by being the center of attention.
Right.
He's a weak man.
That's the irony is that if that's true, then the irony is that he thinks of himself as like this super powerful guy, but if he's a puppet, even in a small way, it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, but I think that's very clearly the case. Like he is so obviously a weak man, right? Because he's so incapable of any kind of admission of his failures or inabilities or anything. Like he's not a very complex man, psychologically at least. We all know what he wants to hear. And unfortunately, much smarter people are doing the things necessary to achieve their own ends, with Trump as the person that they can manipulate.
Well, this kind of like leads me on to this topic that I've vaguely had in the back of my pocket for a while, which is that I've been wondering if and how the use of AI could be used in government. Like even if we're going, 10, 20, 30, 50 years into the future, I've been wondering is it conceivable that we might have an AI type government, or at least a government that is using AI to make decisions? So if you think about things like, I don't know, immigration policies or abortion or whatever, but theoretically you could have an AI program that kind of could calculate the amount of suffering that a certain piece of legislation might impact, or the benefit, like having this kind of almost AI utilitarian government. Yeah, I've been wondering if that's like something that would be a good thing. Like if we could guarantee that AI does not have its own self-interest, right? If the AI has no interest other than minimizing suffering of the citizens of a particular country, would that be a good thing instead of having people who are fallible people with egos and self-interest making decisions like they are now? I mean, I can imagine that theoretically could be kind of an interesting way to govern.
It is an interesting question. Weirdly, my brain first went, I don't know if you how diligent a voter you are. And I don't say that as a slight, but when I get my election slips, I'll go down the line and I'll look at the parties, and a lot of them are just like random minority party stuff, and I'm like, so who is this person, and should I downrank them or uprank them, right?
Yeah.
And there is one, and I don't remember the name of the party. I'm sure Eddie probably knows who I'm talking about, but there's one which is marketed itself as like pure democracy, and their platform is our representatives swear an oath that they will follow the majority opinions of the voter base. I think it's like the Direct Democracy Party or something like that. And their idea is, for every bill that comes up, we will poll the electorate, and every person votes yes or no, and then the majority opinion on that is what our representative will vote for you.
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
So the government is a pure reflection of what people want.
Correct. And it's sort of like this weird hybrid of like tech neoliberal party / utilitarian, like majoritarian centrism kind of thing. But I've always looked at it with this sort of interesting curiosity, not because I really agree with it or think it makes much sense, but because it produces the same kind of ethical and moral and philosophical questions as what you've just posed, right? Like if we have an AI sitting there over the top and deciding what is on the basis of like a majority benefit kind of policy, what are the consequences of that? And similarly, if the majority gets to choose the votes of this individual, who is that representing and what are the risks? I think the reason that it doesn't make sense to me is because ultimately I would hope that our aspirations as a society is that our government is made up of people with expertise, right? People who actually know the area they're assigned, the implications of a decision, the holistic costs and benefits of certain choices, and then with that educated position and with the access to governmental resources and that kind of thing, make a choice generally in the best interests of society. I think that's sort of what our ideal government is anyway, right? But balanced with a human element where at certain times you hope that even if the maths said this is not a majority position or whatever, a moral or human element could kick in and say, but it's the right thing to do and we should, implement a law that's perhaps not for the benefit of the majority, but because we need to help a minority, for instance. And I wonder if an AI process would have the nuance or the humanness to be able to understand that actually what benefits society broadly is often uplifting a minority, not benefiting a majority, even if that theoretically improves more people's lives.
Yes, but theoretically, this AI model could take that into account as well.
Yeah.
They could say, in the long run, even if this doesn't serve the majority of the people at the time, whatever legislation, in the long run, it might help minorities to be, have more of a voice or whatever. So theoretically, it could have, like, if we're talking years in the future, theoretically that could be part of it. But I guess, I guess it's unclear ethically whether a utilitarian model is even the right thing. On paper, it sounds like it's the perfect one. It's for the greater good, and for the one that reduces the most suffering. That seems like it should be. That should be a model that everyone adopts, ethically. But yeah, I guess it is complicated. It's interesting what you were saying before about having experts and leaders theoretically, that people that do have society's best interests at heart. And yeah, even if we had the most pure, politicians governing for us in that sense, like ethically, it's not necessarily correct. Society doesn't necessarily know what's good for itself either. Exactly. Even if government is a reflection of what people want is not necessarily good. That's not necessarily an ethical approach to governing a society either.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and it does make me think. If you set up an AI for oversight over the country that has a mandate to minimize suffering, right? Then implicit in that, just based on our established political ideologies, what you're asking for is a quote-unquote liberal AI, right? It is a policy of uplifting those in need. And I can't help but think that if you gave a computer this mandate, that it's not going to look at, a bunch of homeless people and be like, okay, well, we need to build houses for them because someone living out in the streets is an enormous suffering, and we have the resources, so we'll do that. And in fact, what we might do is we might mandate that landlords have to take these unhoused people and give them housing at low rents in order to get them back on their feet, because as a society, that's better. I mean, you can already hear the objections, right? Like this kind of request for governance is going to get pushback from the right. It's not the kind of administration they want to live under.
That's funny. It's funny because I'm just like visualizing this, and it's like, all right, we're implementing this. AI is now in charge. Within 2 days, we're communists. Okay, everyone's communist because that's what AI has calculated.
That's utilitarianism, right?
Yeah.
But that again, it lacks an understanding of, so many human nuances. The idea of ownership, of remuneration for your hard work, like these sort of capitalist things which are baked into so many of us. They're not minimizing suffering. If you want to talk about minimizing suffering, then you have to start dismantling society. And I think it's impossible for such a thing to get widespread acceptance. I just don't think that enough people would be like, let's let the robot decide where our budget goes.
Yeah, and I guess if, obviously we're thinking like completely ideal, but like if there's an element in the AI programming or in the AI thinking that incorporates a pragmatic approach, and it also incorporates an element where society is able to progress by way of having a pathway to achieving more, earning more, which progresses society as well as minimizing stuff. I mean, it's crazy. It's so complicated now that you think of all these moving parts, but theoretically it could happen. I don't know.
I mean, the other thing, if we really drill down on it, right? Utopia is a myth, right? It's impossible for everyone to get everything they want, right? We live in a system without enough resources for everyone, right? And there's going to be unequal distributions, right? And furthermore, someone's happiness is often, maybe not often, occasionally going to directly cause the unhappiness of another person.
Right.
That it is intrinsic to one person's happiness that someone else suffers. Not in a malicious way necessarily, but through someone else missing out on something. Or it's perhaps even... Go ahead.
It's kind of the law of the universe. You think about nature. A lion needs to eat, and in order to eat, needs to kill a deer. That's how energy. That's how the energy is expended in the universe.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Let's define suffering as well. What is suffering? Is it pure physical harm, or are we talking mental suffering as well?
Yeah,
I think we probably are. If we're talking mental suffering, to what degree? Are we talking about erasing, depression and that kind of things? Well, then we're funding healthcare. We're finding psychological underpinnings there. But what about if we're talking about spiritual happiness, right?
Sure.
If I, as a gay man, want to get married, there is some subset of Christians out there or Muslims out there for whom the idea of my happiness is directly causing them unhappiness or anger or otherwise, discomfort. So there is an impossibility intrinsic in that idea, right? So someone is going to have to either concede unhappiness or, there's no alternative. Someone is going to have to concede,
Yeah, I mean, I think about abortion. Like, imagine,
100%.
What would that algorithm look like for an AI? The amount of suffering caused by a mother who cannot afford to give birth to a child or raise a child, versus the chance that the amount of happiness that this fetus could live a happy life. I mean, that's
I mean, to add further complexities, I mean, it's old. It's well trod ground at this point, but if it's a child, a pregnancy from an abuse situation. What kind of suffering are you inflicting on the person having to bring that to term? And then on the other side of it as well, if you're going to talk about the happiness that might bring, not just to a parent, but also potentially to any other human that human ever interacts with in the future of its 90 years of life. How do you do the calculus on what that benefit is?
The trauma that they are putting onto other people as a result of their own.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you do the maths? And I think ultimately what we're saying is that's an impossible equation, right? The idea of being tasked with this responsibility, it's idealistic, because I don't think there is a magic lever and like spreadsheet where everyone gets everything they want. But two, I don't think intrinsically as humans we would trust that anyway. I think like the political proposal of, well, why don't we just let a computer decide it, would be shut down so fast.
Yeah. Like maybe in 1,000 years though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be foolhardy to say that there is never a possibility that technologically we might be able to attain something close to some kind of level of intelligence that can assess a complex, trillion item system, with moving pieces and work out a potential path that maximizes some form of happiness.
Yeah.
But I think it would have its own complexities and problems regardless.
I mean, so many of the models that we have for governing people today are built on things that have kind of evolved from, or frameworks from the past. It'd be interesting to see if, even if, if we went to start colonize Mars and take Elon out of it. Elon's not in charge of this. But
I do want to talk about Elon.
it's interesting to think, like, how would we create, how would we try to govern from the ground up from today? What would we do differently? I wonder if it would be that different.
If you're establishing a system of government from first principles.
From scratch, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean democracy just does seem like the best one, but I mean, maybe there's better ways we can do it from scratch. Who knows?
I mean, I think the fundamental idea of representation and democracy, as you say, I think it's the best idea we've had, but it's an execution problem, right? It's if you're in America and you've got a fucking 300-year-old system where it's electoral college abstractions away from direct representation and all that kind of stuff, well, there's obviously problems with that. But then, even as we're discussing here, we have a more representative electoral process, right? Not even first past the post, but preferential voting and all these kind of safeguards, which are democratically beneficial. But you're still ultimately putting a human in charge who can choose what to do, right? That may inevitably vote against an individual elector's interests, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess like maybe even communism is, on paper, the most ethical way to start a government from the ground up today. Given that now today we've technologically we've made our lives a hell of a lot easier. We've got we can use a toilet. We've got. No, but I'm being serious. Like we have the infrastructure there for plumbing, which is huge. So everything else is a bonus. So in terms of like trying to progress society further, I mean, it's nice to have new technology and quick as the blood, but we've got everything now. We don't really need to keep getting better speakers. We don't need to have faster GPS. We've got that stuff. So if you could just take that stuff to Mars, all the technology.
GPS.
I'm not really coming up with the best examples right now. I don't know. You're going to need GPS on Mars, Nick, okay? Because
I wish my GPS was faster.
On Mars you will.
I think
on
that's
Mars
just
you
how
will.
fast you're driving, Michael.
But if we could take all their technology over to Mars, and then we have a communistic society, so it's not necessarily a capitalistic one where everyone is not driving forward in the same way that we are now in a capitalistic society. But if everyone's got housing, everyone's got rights, benefits in the same way, I mean, with all the technology stuff that we already have, that sounds like a nice place to live.
I don't know how that happened. I don't know how you get there and it'd still be communism, because in order to get to Mars, you need to get there on rockets that are made by companies or organizations here, and those companies and corporations are going to be the ones that establish what that base operates like, right? You can't just be like, everyone gets a house when you have to ship everything there from Earth. You're still going to have some kind of hierarchy, whether it is with a government representation who's put you there, or fucking what's Elon's company, SpaceX. It's either the SpaceX bosses who tell you what to do, or it's the NASA bosses who tell you what to do. And either way, it's not communism.
Yeah, I guess so.
The other thing, speaking of Elon, like, it is, just to backtrack away from this discussion very briefly, it is kind of horrifying how easily he has been able to walk into the American, government and just do what the fuck he wants. Like that, talk about, the quote unquote utilitarian AI overlord coming in. Well, what about a billionaire coming in and choosing what to do with everyone's money? That's it's unbelievable.
I almost want to say like a Trojan horse, but he wasn't even a Trojan horse. He was just a horse. No. And he was like, "Hey, I'm a horse.
Yeah,
can let me into the hospital.
I'm a horse, and I've got $280 million to spend, and now I get to choose how this country works."
Yeah. Did you get my Millennium
Crazy
reference there?
I do. I appreciate it. One of his most famous bits.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's I say we did it. We allowed it to happen.
Every day that goes by where no one fucking stands up and screams, "This is absurd and illegal and it needs to stop," they're continuing to do it. It's the lack of outrage, the lack of media coverage, and weirdly, the timbre of the coverage is like, "Oh, this is a bit unusual. Like, they never said they were going to do." Yes, they did. They said it all the time. They said it constantly. This is what they wanted to do. Everyone's like, "Oh, where did all this Project 25 stuff come from?" You're like, this is a bit outrageous. Like, oh, we didn't think he'd actually do this. Yeah. Like, there was all the coverage about like the financial institutions were down rating the positive forecast because they assumed that all the stuff that they were talking about wasn't actually going to happen. And then they came in and did the things they were talking about. And they're like, "Oh, wow, we didn't, assume that he was going to do the things he said." Yeah. It's just so frustrating.
It's like what happened with all of his nominees. The immediate reporting of that was, "No, these guys aren't going to get in." And then one by one, it's like, yep, all in, cool.
Tick.
What do you make of the? Are you a fan of the Bulwark podcast? Tim Miller, he's my new guy for US politics. He's really great, fellow gay. So there's that. But I think he was the.
Well, now I'll listen.
I can't remember. He was an advisor for a few campaigns, including Obama. But he's been asking his guests this question about what do you make of this argument that the Trump administration and the Republican Party are kind of just making these insane changes and adjustments to even the way we even the way we deal with politics on a fundamental level. What do you make of the argument that, like, let's just let them do it and make their own bed and shit in their own bed and suffer the consequences for it after? Do you reckon there's anything to that?
What consequences come from it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not speaking about anything in particular here, but
I mean, who inflicts consequences? If they do everything that they want, why?
well, I mean, some of the what they want to do. I mean, for example, I don't know. Let's say the mass deportations that they have swept through, right? Sending everyone undocumented back home.
It's not even that. It's not even undocumented people. Like it's
no.
just migrants.
I'm saying all of that, right? So an
Yeah.
insane, sweeping, crazy, psychopathic policy implementation. So let's say they do that, they execute that exactly how they wanted to, and it collapses the infrastructure of some industries in America, because now no one has people to work for them, and planes fall out of the sky and all that stuff. Now that's going to come with, like, obviously casualties and death, but like they will have no one to blame, if they continue this way. Like if they keep implementing changes that everyone can see from a mile away, that is just going to completely erode parts of society. Do you think there's anything to be like, all right, you know what, just do it, we're not even going to fight you for it, so let's just see what happens, and you're just going to shit in your own bed?
It just strikes me as an idea that comes from someone unafraid of those consequences coming to them. Because it's all well and good to be like, well, let's just let them do it, and then politically there'll be such a strong argument to be made that they'll be turfed out at the next election. But in the meantime, how many children die of measles?
Yeah.
How many air crashes, kill families? How many industries collapse, and then cities collapse, and then you have generational, socioeconomic problems in large swathes of the country. Like, it's all. Yeah, I think there is an argument that you could make that if they break it, then yes, maybe everyone's blinders drop, and the rose tinted glasses disappear, and finally everyone calls a spade and turf it out. But I think some of this stuff has been proven to be so fragile.
Yeah.
So fragile and too important that you can't let it go, because if you let them, fundamentally change democracy, if they come for the electoral system or for the courts or something in a way that's permanent, then you don't have a chance to get out of it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he wasn't making.
I don't think he was making
that
the
argument.
argument.
He was just like, let's. Is that
Talk
one
it out.
approach? But
Yeah. I just the cost. Yeah, I don't think you could come back from it.
yeah.
Anyway,
Well-
that was a good topic. The AI government thing is an interesting question.
Yeah. Thanks.
So a little bit of a change of pace here. We should check the mailbag, I think.
Let's do it. Okay.
Play the jingle.
Mailbag, it's the weekly mailbag. Deep thoughts mailbag.
Okay, so this is someone reaching out in response to our last episode. You will remember, Michael, that we had some pretty heated words about the state of Tupperware. And someone's got in touch.
The internet was a buzz.
The internet was a buzz. My sister commented the first time that we've ever talked about something she cared about, which is
Finally.
It's finally nice.
And that's why this is the last episode.
247. So you made a plea to the world for improvements, and I'm excited to say, Michael, to deepthought@gmail.com, we have received correspondence.
Love it.
This is an email entitled Collaboration, and it comes from Timu Official.
No.
Timu Official 78 @gmail.com writes, "Hello. We at Temu Official are just launching our newest summer clothing line at Temu, and we notice you have been a fan of our work. So we are just launching our influencer campaign and really want you involved. You would get free monthly packages, 10 items of your choice per month, your own exclusive discount code to share, shout outs, and reposts to our Instagram and website. Before we send you more details, we'd like to know how much you charge per post, what social media platforms you are on. Best regards.
There we go.
So
they were listening.
They were listening, Michael, and I think we have hit on an amazing opportunity right now.
I think it's the perfect partner for this podcast. Both orange designs, for one thing.
Exactly. They seem to be really interested in wearing Tupperware. They're talking about clothing, which I hadn't really considered until now, but I'm open to it.
Well, we got to think outside the box, pun intended.
Yeah, and make those boxes stack. So stay tuned to everybody. The Deep Thought X Temu Official 78 at gmail.com collab is in the works, and pretty exciting things on the way.
Yeah, it would be nice to update everything with Temu Presents Deep Thought.
Yeah, we'll get Sean to redo the logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Temu.
Thanks, Temu. If you've enjoyed this episode, then thank you so much for listening and contributing and participating, even if that participation is only inside your brain. But if you would like to make it outside your brain, you can do so by getting in touch with us. So you can send an email like our friends at Temu did, deepthought@gmail.com. You can find other episodes to listen to on our podcast feed or on Spotify, or you can also rate us 5 stars. Same for Apple Podcasts, of course, as well. You can find our songs and other little jingles on the Spotify band account, and you can get in touch with us on Instagram if that's your platform of choice. So, be safe out there, wash your Tupperware, and ideally transition to like a glass or Pyrex base, because you don't want those microplastics anyway.
Thanks, RFK.
Hey, Michael, we set it up last week. And no, I'm not talking about your myth about the door. I'm talking about the rec engine. So you got some recs for me, buddy?
So many, man. It's out the wazoo over here.
I'll grab the keys. Welcome to Deep Thought's Recommendation Engine. Wreck me up, my friend.
All right, I'm just going to do it like this because I've got so many. I'm just going to group them. I'm not going to speak about them too much.
Okay. Oh, wow.
But we don't have time, okay?
We don't have time.
I have seen 4 films. Actually, one of them has been on there for a while, but 3 of them I've seen recently. It's that time of the year, Oscar season. I'm trying to get in and see all of them, and I've seen 3 absolute knockout films lately, and I think all of them are up for a best picture. But these are hardcore recs from me, like for real.
Hardcore.
And I'm sure a lot of people have seen these films already, but if you haven't, go see Anora. Anora is a great fucking movie. Sean Baker, who did The Florida Project, Red Rocket, it's just a great story. It's very funny, but it's kind of got this Big Lebowski type vibe. Incredible, very touching as well. Go see Anora. I saw Conclave as well, which is it's kind of a drama thriller, which
Ray
takes place in
Fiennes
the
one,
Vatican.
right?
Ray Fiennes.
Yeah.
It's not what I thought it was going to be at all, and right up until the end, it's got some twists and turns that I just didn't see coming, but so poetic in its narrative.
Wow,
like really, really great.
Siskel and Ebert over here.
The biggest one, my biggest rec here for Oscar season, I saw The Brutalist.
Shrek 2.
So, Shrek 2. The Brutalist I saw on Sunday last week. 4-hour epic movie. Now, I know everyone's talking about this movie, but it is so... I haven't locked in on a movie as hard as this since maybe There'll Be Blood. And it's kind of...
Wow.
It's the most similar...
That's a big call.
It's not like my number one, but yeah, it was. I feel like I got it. I had so many thoughts and feelings about it. has so many ideas about it in the same way that I did with There Will Be Blood. And I was just so in. I didn't even want it to end, even after 4 hours. Has an intermission. The intermission is great in itself, just the way they do that. But it is just a phenomenal movie. It's a 5-star movie by every metric. Score is brilliant. Performances are brilliant. It's so rich, and it's one of the greats. It's one of the great movies.
What's who scored that?
I don't actually know. I haven't.
Did you vibe? Is the sound part of it? Like, is that what moved you as well?
Well, I mean, this is not spoiling anything, but it's about the backdrop of the movie's not about brutalism, but that's kind of the backdrop to it. A big part of this movie is about space, like spaces, and how we interact with spaces, and in a physical sense, but the music itself also really just in a perfect way creates its own geographical space, and I mean it's so fucking phenomenal. Like, go see it at the movies if you can. Like, it's just one of those movies you have to see at the movies. But there's great pictures up for the Academy Awards this year.
Yeah, well, and Conan hosting as well.
You said I think it'll be great.
I do too. You said you had 4, or was that 3?
The other movie that I had was this is from maybe a year ago, but it's called The Coffee Table. It's a Spanish movie. It's a horror movie, but it is fucking insane. And it's not horror in the sense that it's like gore, but it's like one of the wildest movies you've ever seen in a brilliant way. It's all in Spanish, but it is if you like kind of dark, like the darkest of the dark, not like child porn, like it's not like that, but like just like horrifying stuff on like on a
thriller,
deep, on a deep level.
Yeah.
Dread.
Like
I've never seen, and it's not even, there's nothing gory necessarily about it, but everything is kind of what it implies. Yeah. This has been on my rec list for ages, but it is go see just work out how to see The Coffee Table. You'll work it out if you really want to go see it, but I strongly recommend that one too.
Yeah, gosh.
Right.
Well, I might start with a stand-up and then move on to some TV.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about James Acaster's most recent special, Heckler's Welcome, which is a bit. It's been a couple of months now, but we've been late on our rec engine for a while.
Yeah.
Did you see that special?
Yeah, I did. I did.
So a really interesting concept where it's called Heckler's Welcome because literally the audience is allowed to yell things at him at any time and interrupt. And as you watch the special, it emerges that the reason that this happened is because he was having a bad time doing stand-up and he was reacting poorly, and when he was having a bad gig he would get angry at the audience and he would lash out even when things were going well, and he was just generally not in a good headspace in the dynamic of doing stand-up, and genuinely thought he was going to quit for a while and all this kind of issues. And it ended up deciding that the way to solve this for himself was to make it permissible and then to force himself to not react to it, to sort of like literally exposure therapy himself through whatever it was that was going on, which is really a interesting insight into the mind of a stand-up, but B, meta and interesting approach to making a special, and coming from, I think, one of the most unique and one of my favorite comedic voices out there of his generation. But I have to say that as a special, I don't think it really is very funny.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, because I didn't love it as much either.
No, I know. It's so weird because I have this not mixed, as in I have contrary but simultaneous opinions of, I'm really glad that he did this. And it seems like a really healthy thing that he's done. And I think the process and even the stories that he tells are interesting and worthwhile and justified. But I don't think it's his best work by a long shot. And it's really interesting.
The same feeling, yeah.
I was curious to know what you thought about it and to hear you talking a little. If you had anything else to add.
Yeah, well, I think we have the same feeling toward it because I've really enjoyed him talking about it on other podcasts. You know, he talked about it with, I think he was on Marin, and he did a few others where I'm like really interested in
David Cross.
David Cross was the other one. That was a great episode actually. And so I'm interested in his process, and I'm interested that he did it, and I like it when people do something different and try and change the thing. But I agree, I didn't laugh. Like I really wanted to laugh. He's, one of my favorite comedians as well. But I also don't like, as a set, I don't like comedy done in the round. I just, I don't like it. I don't know why. But
it is interesting.
Like that
but I think that's, again, that reflects the goal of the special very explicitly was for James's benefit, right? And having himself surrounded on all sides by audience, I think it adds a psychological character that is probably he's playing on, right? That he feels vulnerable. It's about overcoming vulnerability. This is a deliberate choice, but I think you're right that as a stage, it feels disconcerting as a viewer, and I wonder
it's distracting almost
if that reflects again the takeaway feeling I had, which is this was something that you needed to do, and I'm so glad you did it, but I don't think it's for us as much as the repertoire stuff was, or Cold Lasagna. You know, those are things still about the audience. And I'm very curious and excited now that he's overcome this to see what the next special is, you know?
Yeah. Like he needed to fall in love with comedy again, and that's for everyone's benefit in the long run. But I'm trying to think now, did he splice this special together from a bunch of recordings?
He did.
Tapings?
There was 2 nights. There was 2 nights there, I think he did, or 2 shows on the same day, perhaps.
Right. See, I think it could have probably benefited for something like this. It could probably benefit from like, all right, tour this for 6 months, and then just to make a compilation of the best moments.
Like, I think he talked about that maybe with David Cross, where he did one version of the show that he wished he'd recorded because it went, or they did record it, and it went better than anything they'd ever done. But none of that's in this version.
Right.
Because it was like a last minute, like, it's just really working right now. Quick, who can we get out here to do it? Can you film something? And so they have like a version of it. And I think they did even say that he might put that out at some point.
Okay.
Just as like an alternate thing of it.
Because it's the kind of thing that it's like you want the best of the moments, because being
that's it, right?
Kind of an open forum, you don't really know what you're going to get. If you're relying on audience interaction, that's going to be an element of chance that you don't have control over.
And even stylistically, it's intercut with non sequiturs stuff, right? Of him playing drums, of some guy in a suit throwing balls at him, stuff that never actually happens in the show.
Yeah,
and I think it's an interesting contrast to look at. What's Mulaney's most recent one? The one that his post-addict one, I can't remember what the name of it. Right, the post-rehab one. Maybe it was Baby J. But that was a show about stand-up overcoming his own problems and psychology and everything. But it was for the audience still. It was jokes about himself and stories about himself, but so the audience could come along.
Yeah,
and
it was Baby J, by the way.
Okay, great. But I feel like with this one from James, it was less about us. But anyway, an interesting watch regardless.
Yeah, I mean, he does already play around. I mean, my introduction to him, what was the first one that was in parts?
Repertoire.
Repertoire. So that was kind of a weird way to do a special anyway, And
Repertoire is amazing because he does punchlines 2 specials later for the audience at home that the audience in the room don't get.
Yeah. And even with Cold Lasagna, I think we both saw that live. In Cold Lasagna, he was on the stage when people were filling in, just sitting on his iPod, like he was, like everyone expected, like the introduction, and he was just there already when the lights were on. Which I mean, he's not afraid to play around with stuff, and sometimes it doesn't work, but I like it when people do something different.
Yeah, I agree. I'll quickly rattle through a few TV shows. I'll say quickly up front, Pachinko is an incredible period piece, generational story about like Korean immigrants to Japan. It's a very famous book. It's been made into an Apple TV Plus series. It is wonderful. Anyone who's looking for something to scratch that Shogun itch, with that sort of complex, emotionally deep storytelling, beautiful period stuff. It's also got Anna Sawai in it, who is wonderful. Go check out Pachinko. It has the most beautiful music on TV at the moment.
You told me to listen to it, didn't you?
Nico Muhly, who you might know as one of the artists who did the Planetarium collab with the National and Sufjan and everything.
Yeah.
Planetarium, also stunning. He does the most like heart-wrenching, beautiful piano score. It is just stunning. And like, it is a show where genuinely I get choked up watching the title credits. Like, it's just such a vibe. It's so fucking good.
All right. I'm actually adding it now, dude. All right, I'm doing it. I'm adding it now.
The music is incredible. I'm on an Apple TV kick at the moment. They genuinely just have the best TV going around at the moment. Shrinking, the show with Harrison Ford and Jason Segel. If you like that sort of light, witty hangout comedy, it's sort of Scrubsy. It's Bill Lawrence. It's sort of Ted Lasso. It's really nice, and Harrison Ford's really funny, and it's just good.
And Severance, of course.
Severance. We got
just watched the first episode of that the other day.
The first of the second season? No,
first of the first.
First of the first. No. Oh, shit.
Oh, okay. What was the balloons?
The balloons.
No, because I'm not a big TV. I can't get into it. But then Lauren and I got tattoos the other day, and I really connected with this tattoo artist, and she was talking about Severance, and she was like, I hate TV as well, but like, we were getting deep into like philosophy of the 9 to 5 and stuff, and I was like, all right, well, we have to do this. So I've just started. I like the first episode.
Yeah, Adam Scott in a really impressive dramatic role, and like with range and with like an interesting conceit, and it only gets better and more weird and interesting with time. But Severance really good. And then one last TV recommendation, which has sort of been a slow burn for me. It's Industry. Industry is an HBO show. It's a drama. It's set in the finance world. It's people working at a bank, investing in stocks and that kind of thing. It sort of scratches a little bit of that Succession itch. It's big, high-flying types making big, risky bets and backstabbing everyone, and they're all kind of horrible. But it's also with an additional layer of like London. It's set in London with an additional like layer of London drinking, drugs, and sex. All these rich young people making terrible choices. And the first season's okay. The second season's very good. And then this third season, which just finished recently, is just batshit. And they're just like going whole hog at it. And it's really kind of, grandiose and interesting and great. So if anyone's looking for that itch scratched, Industry is a good rec from my end.
Nice.
You got anything else on your rec list there?
I got one more.
Please,
and it's
finish me
a 6-part docuseries by Ken Burns called The American Buffalo. Now,
okay. Now, Michael, if I'm wrong, this sounds a lot like a TV show.
It's a documentary. It's Ken Burns famously he's hailed as one of the great documentary makers. But what he makes pretty dry, almost like borderline educational documentaries for PBS, and this is no different. Each episode is like 2 hours, But I had this thing on in the background while I was working from home a few days ago, and it's the history of America, including the Native Americans, as told through the story of the American buffalo. And I know that doesn't sound very fun, but it is. It was so beautiful, and I don't think it's so long that you don't need to. I didn't think you needed to pay attention to every second, but if you just have it on in the background and the shot. I love I love buffaloes. So what can I say? I love buffaloes and I love bisons. I just thought it was.
I've known you for 17 years. 18 years now, and this is the first time that I've ever heard you say I love bison.
I love bison.
This is the first time this has come up.
No, I've always loved buffalo and bison. I've got a buffalo tattoo on my left leg here. Also, hold on. Wait. The other thing about buffalo, hold on. This is going to be good.
I'm not going to edit this either. I'm going to leave this as it is.
The other thing about buffalo is that you can have, I don't know if you've heard this, but you can have buffalo, 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 buffalo as a complete grammatically correct sentence.
Is that the only reason that you like them?
No, but there's just beautiful beasts. The beautiful beasts that they're also verbs and they're nouns and they're adjectives and they're proper nouns
that's a pretty famous thing. But I'm happy for you that you found a new love for the first time this year in buffalo, and that you're embracing your buffalo love. You're a buffalo buff now. Buffalo love is
Buffalo
actually.
Mike.
I think Buffalo Love should have actually topped the hottest 100 this year, and I think they were robbed.
What is that? An actual song?
No.
Oh. Well, I do.
You could have just laughed, and we could have had an exit, but that's okay.
And instead, we've got just this. Why do I have to laugh every outro? Why do we have to laugh?
Think it makes people feel like they're left on a nice note.
Why don't we just say, all right, that's it, bye.